Yeah, rest in peace to Takeoff, man. We can keep this short because I'm over the conversation because I feel like we've done.
I don't think we'll ever
get
over it.
No,
well, when I say over, I mean I don't know how to do a lead in. I don't know what to say at this point because it's just so repetitive. I hate to hear that. That kid's 28, didn't have anything to do with the situation. From what I see now, what's gonna happen online. I'm
it's
staying away
speculation
from all that.
right now. I mean,
Right.
They say it's a dice game.
Yeah.
The footage doesn't show dice game. Yeah, there was a mathematic equation, and the conspiracy theorists have came up with a whole scenario behind it.
Of course they have.
How he was sacrificed for QC and 𝗏𝗏𝗧 and all this BS,
man.
which is sad. I mean, I don't understand why people don't have the restraint to not say anything
Can't help
about these events that take place without just at least letting it breathe and letting the family grieve a little while before you then came up with all kind of stories. Because nobody's story is ever the right one.
There's so
you
much.
weren't there.
There's so much.
The same thing. They did the same thing to Nipsey Hussle. Remember,
Yeah.
it was just like, it was all these conspiracy theories in this.
There's pages upon pages of people on YouTube right now misleading everyone by telling stories that they swear they know what happened.
It's crazy how people will tell all these stories. People who weren't there will tell all these stories, but the people who were there will not.
They'll record it though.
They will not tell what happened, because the thing is that they'll do this to him, they'll do this to your wife or grandmother,
Yep.
or and I've told this before, but when my friend was shot, I talked to the police immediately.
Yep.
All right, people would be like, that's the violation of street code. I'm not a street person.
Yep.
Somebody shot my friend. How could I look at his kids and his girl going forward? And I said, I saw what happened, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm keeping it real.
Streets.
And I think
that's just not what it is.
And plus, once again, you listen to street rap. You are not street people.
Oh,
some of them are though. I mean,
some of them are.
That's more so a lot of the people that kind of are fans or things of that nature.
Yep.
I'm not going to sit here and say that they aren't street or from the streets or whatever. I don't think that really played a part in what happened. Honestly.
Well, no, I think this was just some. Once again, I hate to revisit so many themes that I've brought up here before, but I mean, these things keep happening. But once again, sometimes it gets to be about people and their lack of self-esteem, their lack of self-restraint, and just no value for life. And, that moment that they have of feeling some type of way. Okay, now you've taken this man from his family and now you're on the run, because trust me, I always have the mindset that everything's being recorded, no matter what you do, no matter where you go. Even if people are like, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Okay, everything's recorded in HD nowadays, especially if you are somewhere where there is commerce being done.
It'll come out in the wash. It's gonna come out.
So they're going to find you, and
people weird, man, showing videos of this kid, man.
The whole energy behind all of that stuff is weird to me.
It's
man.
weird, man.
And I don't understand how people
are
just so
desensitized
to
into things that have
all
nothing.
of these things that are going on. I mean, he literally got shot and is laying on the ground, and people were sharing a video about it.
Instead of trying to figure out if there's any, I heard one young lady. I went through there one time. One young lady said, "I'm a nurse. Let me try to help him." Everybody else got their phone out.
Shout out to the whole city of Atlanta, man. I know this has got to be felt really super down there.
I agree.
Just whenever I see one of these hip hop artists and they lose their life, especially to gun violence, it always jumps out at me the age. When I see 28, I'm like, what he's accomplished by 28 is actually pretty impressive.
Facts.
Regardless of what you think about, maybe you're not a big Migos fan or whatever, but when you look at what they've been able to do, it's actually very, very impressive.
I have always said that their impact on the culture is undeniable.
Yeah, I mean, it's more than commendable what they've done and what they brought to the game. Whether you can compare
and he was
it to
about to go on
somebody else
another
that
run.
came up.
And he's about to go on another run.
No.
That part.
Whether they compare it to somebody else that already came up, like I know we compared them to like Bone Thugs or people like that. They are who they are for this generation.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So
and the impact is crazy.
They've put their stamp on what's going on right now.
I agree.
But once again, I see 28, and I was like, for all he's accomplished in the music industry, 28 ain't nothing as far as what you've accomplished as a man. And it's just unfortunate that he didn't get to do, like, I still, for everything he's probably been able to see and experience, I think about even when I was, I had done some cool things by 28, but it wasn't nothing compared
Not like
to
what they did. Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I'm thinking about the things I've been able to see and experience and the highs and lows of me reaching, 45. And it's like it still strikes me because I'm like, man, I know he was just getting started.
I just would rather die old and well off than young and rich.
Yeah,
it's just that's
yeah.
I hate that it has to come to that, but I mean, unfortunately, people are being put in a position to where their life has changed for the better and are still losing it.
And I don't know if anybody saw what Coach Prime. Give him his respect, call him Coach Prime.
Yeah.
He said today, because apparently I think his team is playing somewhere in Houston. He said, anybody, if
Texas Southern,
he's like, y'all ain't going out.
Yep.
Anybody, if you got a little girl or something down there, your family and friends can come to the hotel and see.
He keep it a buck. He said, he said,
who you were or where you started and where you are now is something different, and who you'll be in a few years is going to be something different. And I'm probably messing up the quotes, but he was just like, somewhere along the line, we just got to do better.
And Prime knows because
it's sad that we have to even keep saying that, because it's like, even when it comes to religion, faith without works is dead.
Facts.
So if we keep on preaching that we got to do better, but nobody's doing anything, it's just we're waving the rest in peace flag and condolences flag and prayers, this, that, and other, but nothing's being done.
Streams will go up for a little bit.
I'm kind of cool on everybody, not us, but like a majority of the people that are out here saying we got to do better, but they don't put forth any kind of effort to make anything or situation better.
But we just have to also, like, I don't know if you guys remember who this guy, because he passed away this week, and I want to give him his rest in peace. Controversial figure, if you will, within hip hop. He was a very loved figure in New York City. His name is 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏. If you remember this song, Thuggish Ruggish Bones, that the part where he's like, we're not against rap.
Yeah.
That was him. Okay.
Yes,
and
thugs.
when that song came out, I was like, man, get this guy out of here. But I'm 45 years old now. Yeah. And I realized that with him, like, they made mistakes in my mind. Even now, with him and what 𝗀 Tucker did, but they weren't wrong. They made mistakes by some of the things that they said, and the way they demonized people who were their children, and they should have had more love for them. That's why
with the message.
That's why when I talked about hip hop artists, like, I try to have a little bit more, these younger hip hop. I try to have a little bit more love in my heart, because I feel like, these are my children. I'm not going to talk about my children like I don't know them, and I feel like that's where 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏, once again, Reverend 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏, rest in peace, brother. Our sister 𝗀 Tucker, rest in peace, sister. That's where you made the mistake. Is where, like, you got on TV and talked about these people like they weren't your children. And unfortunately, we're still doing that now, and that's where we need. That's where the disconnect is, because it'd be like, y'all are old, y'all are broke, and I don't want to be that person, that 45-year-old dude in hip hop, because I've pulled a couple of little artists to the side and I say, hey man, this is what you're doing. This is I see what you're doing. I see the talent. I see the vision. But think about this.
I think that comment,
and I think that's the difference, and I think that's where we need to be going forward, because we, like I said, we can't just look down and point our fingers. Your pants are too tight. Your chains are weird. We don't understand your hairstyle, because that's what a lot of us do once we get to a certain point. And we got to stop that. We got to realize these are our children.
There's two parts to that, though, in my opinion. And what you said is absolutely correct. But there's two sides to that. There's an acceptance of what said old person is, quote unquote, saying as well. And you have young people that will listen. You have some that's going to keep on doing what they were doing. We've all been young, so we know both sides. Sometimes you can't tell young people certain things. Sometimes you can't. You know what I'm saying? So it goes both ways with the youth. If you spending time with them and talking to them, let's hope that it gets through and they are receptive to what you're saying, because a lot of the youth now, everything is based off how many people I can get to like me. I want to get my followers up, clout, and they might miss the message. I'm not saying I hope that. I'm just saying it goes both ways. They got to be receptive.
There has to realize that life is real. This is not a simulation.
Nope.
Although it feels like it at times.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
This is real. You can't come back from any of this.
Right.
And there just needs to be some things put into place that people actually do. You know what I'm saying? As far as trying to get better.
There's no reset button for Takeoff. You can't reset it and start over again and go back.
Man.
You can't do that. It's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be mindful of the choices and things that you do, even when you're young and you're still trying to put it together.
It's a pandemic right now.
But it was
on people getting killed in this music business. I mean, you got to think about back when we were kids, the only two rappers got killed was Biggie and Tupac.
And it was huge.
It was Biggie and Tupac.
That's because they were the two biggest rappers.
And it was Big L, but he wasn't about, he didn't pop yet.
Exactly. He was still technically in the streets.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now,
I mean,
it's
he
like
had his
every
deal,
couple months, there's somebody new added to this list of people. There's a painter that actually has this painting. He paints everybody that dies in the picture. And it's like, this pops up on my timeline way too much to be comfortable with it. Like, it's not comfortable.
He's steady adding.
It's crazy.
Steady adding.
I don't like it, man. And it's very sad.
Last word, Jay, so we can
so we get out of here. But like, once again, I feel sorry for all the P&B rock and everybody who's lost their life to gun violence. But everybody wants to talk about, the violence in the music and reaping what you sow. Well, what about just the violence? I take it back to my hometown, St. Louis. What those kids, and we talked about a little bit last week, those kids who just got up and went to school, they weren't making music.
Yeah.
Violence in America and the proliferation of guns in this country. We don't want to have that conversation. We want to take it to art.
You're getting to the point that I was just going to not mention, but
but we'll talk. Because
we can get into that.
No, but and we'll stop it because we don't want to go there. Maybe we'll take it when we got more time.
It's more important to
But there are plenty. But for all the rappers that got shot, think about all the people's children who've been shot, just in this city or in your city, wherever you're listening to us from. Who weren't famous, who never made a record. And they still had to suffer the same fate because we don't want to talk about guns and about responsible gun.
I think that's
I'm going to stop
that's a good place to stop
there.
It's responsible gun ownership.
Yeah.
And also the thing that leads people to the things we said a few weeks ago, leads people to having low self-esteem in these environments.
Yeah.
The societal conditions, the material conditions that people live in.
Yep.
Maybe it wasn't specifically the case for this, but a lot of these cycles that we see in general go back to the same material related things and habits that are formed and
learned behavior.
Learned behavior. And it goes back to kind of how our society is built. So it's like, it's super easy when we see stuff like this to happen to really hyper focus on the one thing that's happening as opposed to finding those root causes. And there's no simple answer. It's not, it's not an individual type of thing, All
right, man, we're going to leave it there.